The galaxy held its breath the moment the dead came back. Across thousands of star systems, ancient warning beacons lit up at the same time. Civilizations that had not spoken in centuries suddenly heard the same message echo through their sensors and comm channels. Imperial war signatures detected. Classification: extinct power. Probability: impossible. The Empire had returned. For most species, the Empire was not just a name. It was a nightmare carved into history. A vast alien dominion that once ruled half the known galaxy through fear, precision, and overwhelming force. Entire civilizations had been erased simply for refusing to kneel. When the Empire finally collapsed centuries ago, the galaxy believed the threat was gone forever. Everyone believed that, except humans. On the edge of mapped space, in a quiet system with an unremarkable yellow star, Earth's defense network detected the same signals. The difference was not in the data, but in the reaction. There was no panic. No emergency broadcast to civilians. No dramatic speeches. No evacuation orders. Instead, calm voices filled the command centers. Confirm signature alignment. Confirmed. It's them. Estimated arrival time: 6 hours. A pause followed. Then a single sentence, spoken without emotion. Notify the fleet. Humans had learned something the rest of the galaxy had not. Evil did not vanish just because time passed. It waited. Centuries earlier, when humanity was still new to faster-than-light travel, they had encountered the Empire at the very edge of its decline. The Empire had looked at humans and seen nothing special: soft bodies, fragile ships, divided politics. The Empire ignored them. That mistake saved humanity. While other species celebrated the Empire's fall, humans studied it. They collected wreckage, decoded tactics, simulated battles that no one else wanted to remember. While the galaxy moved on, humans prepared. Now the past had returned. The Empire's reappearance was sudden and violent. Entire border systems vanished within hours. Trade stations went silent. Defense platforms failed in seconds. The Empire's ships were just as terrifying as the stories described. Massive obsidian hulls, energy weapons that cut through shields like paper, formations moving with machine-perfect coordination. The galaxy screamed. Emergency councils were formed overnight. Old rivals begged each other for help. Ancient grudges were forgotten in fear. And then someone asked the question no one wanted to hear. Where are the humans? The answer came too late. The Empire's forward fleet exited hyperspace near a coalition stronghold, expecting the same reaction as before: confusion, fear, surrender. Instead, their sensors detected something unusual. Human ships. Not massive. Not flashy. Quiet. Compact. Too few. The Empire advanced anyway. That was mistake number one. Human Admiral Elias Wren stood aboard the command ship Resolute, hands clasped behind his back as he watched the enemy fleet approach. Around him, officers waited for orders that did not sound desperate. They outnumber us 10 to 1, someone said. Wren nodded. Correct. They have superior firepower. Yes. A pause. Then why aren't we retreating, sir? Wren's eyes remained on the tactical display. Because numbers and firepower only matter if you're fighting the right war. The Empire fired first. A wall of energy surged forward, enough to erase entire fleets by old standards. Coalition observers watching from distant systems assumed the humans were dead before the attack even landed. But the shots missed. Not by chance. By design. Human ships shifted position in ways that made no sense. Short jumps, abrupt vector changes, movements that ignored conventional formation logic. Empire targeting systems struggled to adapt. Their weapons were powerful, but they expected predictable behavior. Humans were not predictable. Deploy phase net, Wren ordered calmly. Space itself seemed to ripple. Invisible fields activated across the battlefield, bending sensor data, delaying signals, feeding false information into Empire systems. To the Empire, it looked like human ships were everywhere and nowhere at once. Confusion spread through their command structure. Return fire, Ren said. Human weapons did not roar. They whispered. Pinpoint strikes hit Empire ships at precise structural weaknesses, places humans had learned about centuries earlier by tearing apart wreckage piece by piece. Not enough to destroy them outright. Just enough to disable engines, overload reactors, sever command links. The Empire fleet slowed. Coalition observers stared in disbelief. "They're dissecting them," one alien commander whispered. The Empire tried to regroup. Heavy cruisers pushed forward, activating ancient battle protocols. This was the Empire at its best, disciplined, relentless, brutal. And still, it wasn't enough. Human ships flowed around the formation like water around stone. They did not seek glory. They did not chase kills. Every action served a purpose. Control. When the first Empire dreadnought detonated, the shockwave rippled across space. Not because humans couldn't stop it sooner, but because they wanted the message to be seen. The Empire's last stand had begun. And humanity was not fighting to survive. They were fighting to end something that should have stayed dead. As the battle raged, a single human transmission was broadcast on open frequencies, translated automatically into dozens of languages. This is not a war for territory. This is not revenge. This is cleanup. Across the galaxy, hope ignited where fear had ruled moments before. For the first time since the Empire's return, someone was not running. They were standing calmly in the path of extinction, and winning. And this was only the beginning. The Empire had never feared confusion. For thousands of years, their strength came from order. Perfect chains of command. Perfect obedience. Perfect execution. Every enemy they had ever faced broke the same way. Panic first, chaos second, collapse last. But this battlefield felt wrong. Empire commanders stared at their tactical projections, mandibles tightening, neural crests flickering with stress signals. The data refused to behave. Human ships appeared, vanished, reappeared somewhere impossible. Damage reports arrived seconds late, sometimes minutes, sometimes not at all. This was not how war was supposed to work. "Reassert command lattice," ordered High Strategist Vorthak, his voice cold but strained. "Switch to legacy protocols. Humans are using deception." The order rippled through the fleet. It changed nothing. Another dreadnought lost power, drifting silently as its reactors shut down one by one. Not destroyed. Neutralized. Alive, but helpless. That terrified the Empire more than explosions ever had. Across the void, Admiral Elias Wren watched the enemy fleet slow further. Human ships maintained distance, never rushing, never overcommitting. It looked almost gentle, like a predator that knew its prey could not escape. "Empire fleet cohesion dropping," an officer reported. "They're trying to isolate our ships." Wren nodded. "Let them." The Empire shifted tactics. Smaller strike groups broke away, targeting what they believed were isolated human vessels. It was a classic maneuver: divide, overwhelm, erase. Every group walked into a trap. Human ships lured them just far enough, then collapsed space around them using localized gravity distorters. Empire vessels were crushed, not violently, but precisely, systems overloaded, hulls warped, crews left alive but unable to fight. Coalition observers could barely follow what was happening. "They're not just winning," said a crystalline being from the Lat-Hari Union. "They are teaching." That realization spread fast. Humans weren't improvising. They were executing a plan refined over centuries, one that assumed the Empire would return exactly like this, unchanged, arrogant, confident in old supremacy. On Earth, deep beneath the surface, historians watched the battle unfold in silence. This was not just a war. It was a confirmation. Humanity had been right to remember. The Empire's internal communications became frantic. These humans are not behaving like a lesser species. They ignore dominance displays. They refuse surrender protocols. They do not seek conquest. That last point disturbed the High Council the most. Every great power sought expansion. Resources. Territory. Control. Humans sought none of it. Vorthak finally understood the danger. They are not here to replace us, he said slowly. They are here to remove us. The Empire attempted one final gambit. A massive energy surge built at the core of their flagship, an ancient weapon designed to annihilate entire systems. A warning shot. A declaration. A reminder of fear. Coalition forces watching screamed warnings across every channel. Humans, retreat. They're charging a stellar breaker. Ren didn't move. Execute mirror protocol, he said. Human ships repositioned instantly. Energy fields aligned. Sensors calibrated to impossible precision. When the Empire fired, space itself bent. The weapon's energy split, reflected, dispersed into harmless light across the void. Not absorbed. Not blocked. Redirected. Silence followed. The Empire flagship sat frozen, weapon systems burned out by their own power. For the first time in recorded history, the Empire had fired its ultimate weapon, and achieved nothing. That was the moment the galaxy understood. The humans had surpassed fear. Ren finally opened a direct channel to the Empire command vessel. His face appeared on their displays, old, calm, unmistakably human. You should have stayed gone, he said simply. Vorthak stared back, struggling to process the idea that this small, soft creature stood above him in power. You were insignificant, Vorthak replied. You were spared. Ren shook his head. No. We were ignored. And we learned. Behind Ren, human ships moved into final positions. Not aggressive. Inevitable. This war ended before it began, Ren continued. You just didn't know it yet. The Empire fleet began shutting down, some voluntarily, others forced. Command links collapsed. Formation discipline shattered. The ancient machine of conquest finally broke, not from destruction, but from irrelevance. Across the galaxy, messages spread faster than light. The Empire has fallen again. Humans did it. And they made it look easy. But humanity knew better. This wasn't the end. This was the warning. Because if the Empire had returned once, others might follow. And next time, humanity would not wait in silence. They would stand openly at the edge of the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. And the universe would have to adjust. The battle was over, but the shock had only begun. Across the known galaxy, millions of minds tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The Empire, an ancient force that had shaped history through terror, had returned, and been dismantled with calm efficiency by a species many had once dismissed as fragile. Humanity did not celebrate. That confused everyone. No victory parades were broadcast. No declarations of dominance echoed through the stars. Human ships remained in position, quietly securing disabled Empire vessels, rescuing survivors, and stabilizing space-time distortions left by the battle. They behaved like professionals finishing a long-planned task. For the first time, the galaxy began to ask a new question. What else have humans been preparing for? Emergency councils reconvened, this time without panic, but with unease. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in holographic chambers, replaying battle footage from every angle. Their ships are not superior in raw power, said a Aurelian tactician. They're superior in decision-making. They predicted Empire behavior with frightening accuracy, added another. A third voice cut in, low and thoughtful. They understood the enemy better than the enemy understood itself. That truth settled heavily. Humans had not won because they were stronger. They won because they had listened, remembered, and adapted. Centuries ago, while other civilizations erased painful history, humans preserved it. They archived horrors, studied failures, rebuilt simulations of wars no one wanted to relive. They called it preparation. On Earth, Admiral Ren met with civilian leaders for the first time since the Empire's return. There was no cheering in the room. Only gravity. We ended the immediate threat, Ren said. But the signal is out now. The galaxy has seen us, one leader replied. Ren nodded. And so have the things hiding beyond it. That thought chilled the room. The Empire had been powerful, but it had also been known. predictable, a relic of old domination models. The universe was vast, and not everything followed old rules. Meanwhile, captured Empire officers were held aboard human vessels. They expected torture, interrogation, execution. Instead, they were given food, medical care, and silence. That disturbed them more than cruelty ever could. One Empire commander finally spoke to a human analyst. "Why are we alive?" The analyst didn't look up. "Because you're no longer a threat." The words carried no hatred, no pride, just fact. That interaction spread among Empire survivors. Slowly, terrifyingly, they realized something worse than defeat had occurred. They had been outgrown. Back in coalition space, old alliances began to shift. Species that once viewed humans as minor players now studied them carefully. Trade proposals increased. Diplomatic requests flooded in. But so did fear. "If humans can do this to the Empire," whispered one counselor, "what could they do to us?" Humans heard those whispers. They did not deny them. Instead, they responded with transparency. Human envoys shared data, controlled portions, carefully chosen. They explained their doctrines. Defensive philosophy. Strategic ethics. "We prepare so we don't have to panic," one envoy said. "We remember so we don't repeat mistakes." Some species found that reassuring. Others did not. Wren addressed the Galactic Council in person, his image towering above the chamber. "We are not your rulers," he said. "We are not your saviors. We are not your enemy." Silence gripped the room. "But understand this," Wren continued. "We will not allow extinction to be someone else's learning experience." That message echoed far beyond the chamber. In the deep void, ancient listening posts, long dormant, shifted attention. Signals bounced through forgotten networks. Old powers took note. The humans had revealed themselves. Not through conquest. Through competence. Back at the battlefield, the remains of the Empire fleet drifted like ghosts. Human engineers dismantled weapons with careful hands, recording everything. Learning, as always. A young human officer looked out at the stars and asked a quiet question. "Do you think they'll try again?" Wren didn't answer immediately. "Yes," he said finally. "Eventually." The officer swallowed. "And when they do?" Wren allowed himself the smallest smile. "They'll find us ready." The galaxy was changing. Power was no longer measured by fear or size or ancient titles. It was measured by who could face the unknown without breaking. And humanity had just proven something the universe would never forget. They were not loud. They were not cruel. They were not reckless. They were prepared. And that made all the difference. The galaxy did not sleep after the Empire fell. It watched. Long-range observatories picked up strange distortions at the far edges of known space, subtle at first, almost ignorable. Energy fluctuations without clear origin. Gravitational ripples that did not match any natural phenomenon. To most civilizations, it looked like background noise. To humans, it looked familiar. On Earth, deep in a facility older than most spacefaring nations, alarms began to glow a soft amber. Not red. Red was for panic. Amber meant confirmation. Cross-reference anomaly patterns, ordered Dr. Lena Ortiz, head of deep time analysis. The screens filled with ancient models, hypotheses humans had built centuries ago, back when the Empire was still a rumor. The match percentage climbed steadily. 80%. 87%. 94%. Ortiz exhaled slowly. "It's happening." Admiral Wren was summoned immediately. When he arrived, he didn't ask for explanations. He read the data. He understood. "The Watchers," he said quietly. Ortiz nodded. "Or something like them. We never had proof before. Just absence. Gaps where nothing should exist." Wren stared at the star map. They noticed the Empire's return. "And its failure," Ortiz added. The Empire had ruled through domination. The Watchers, whatever they were, ruled through patience. They did not conquer. They observed. They waited for civilizations to prove themselves dangerous enough to be removed. The Empire had once served as a filter. Humanity had just broken it. Across the galaxy, humans began doing something unexpected. They warned everyone. No dramatic speeches. No claims of authority. Just data, shared freely. "We believe something older is paying attention," the message read. "We advise preparation." Some listened. Some dismissed it as human paranoia. That mistake cost them dearly. The first system vanished without a fight. No debris. No explosion. Just gone. Stars collapsed into nothingness, as if erased from existence. Panic returned to the galaxy, this time deeper, more desperate. Councils fractured. Fleets scattered. Old rivalries flared again. And still, humans did not retreat. They moved toward the darkness. Human fleets formed at strategic junctions, not in massed armadas, but in networks. Every ship connected, every decision shared. It was not a hierarchy. It was a conversation. Ren addressed the coalition one final time before the unknown made itself fully known. "This threat cannot be defeated by fear," he said. "Or pride. Or secrecy." A representative snapped back. "And you think humans should lead?" Ren met the accusation calmly. "No. I think we should coordinate." That distinction mattered. When the Watchers finally revealed themselves, they did not arrive in ships. They arrived as silence. Sensors failed. Time stretched. Entire regions of space became unresponsive, as if refusing to acknowledge reality. Coalition fleets fired into nothing and hit nothing. Human ships did not fire. They listened. Human science had always been shaped by curiosity more than certainty. Where others demanded answers, humans asked better questions. What if they're not attacking? Ortiz whispered. What if they're editing? The realization spread. The Watchers were not enemies in the traditional sense. They were gardeners. Pruners of complexity. They erased what they deemed unstable. Humanity responded not with weapons, but with proof. They flooded the dark with signals. Art. Music. Mathematics. Records of cooperation. Of sacrifice. Of learning from failure. Not a declaration of power. A declaration of growth. At first, nothing happened. Then the silence shifted. Time distortion eased. Systems stabilized. The erasure stopped. The Watchers did not retreat. They paused. For beings that measured existence in eons, that pause was enormous. Ren watched the data and felt something rare. Hope. The galaxy held its breath again, but this time, not in fear. In anticipation. Because for the first time, humanity was not standing alone at the edge of extinction. They were standing with the galaxy. And something ancient was deciding whether that was worth preserving. The pause lasted longer than any battle. Across the galaxy, fleets waited in silence. No one dared fire. No one dared speak too loudly, as if the universe itself might be listening. Because it was. The Watchers did not communicate through words or images. They communicated through absence. Through pressure. Through the subtle bending of reality that made even the bravest minds feel small. And yet, humanity stayed. Admiral Elias Wren stood on the bridge of the Resolute, hands resting lightly on the rail. Around him, officers monitored systems that barely functioned inside the distortion field. Every second felt stretched, fragile. "They're still observing," an analyst said quietly. Wren nodded. "Good." The galaxy did not understand why humans were calm. They should have been afraid. The Watchers had erased stars without effort. They had ended civilizations without warning. No fleet, no weapon, no shield had ever stopped them. But humans were not trying to stop them. They were trying to be understood. Centuries of preparation had not been about war alone. Humans had prepared for contact, not just with enemies, but with the unknown. They had debated this moment endlessly in philosophy halls, simulation chambers, and quiet late-night conversations. What do you show a godlike observer? Power? Fear? Submission? Humanity chose honesty. More signals flowed into the dark, not louder, but clearer. Stories of failure. Of wars that taught painful lessons. Of species humans had once harmed, and then helped rebuild. Of unity forged not by force, but by necessity. Humans showed their scars. They showed their growth. The watchers responded, not with sound, but with structure. The distortion field changed shape. Patterns emerged, complex and deliberate. Not random. Not hostile. Recognizable. They're modeling us, Ortiz whispered from Earth. They're testing consistency, Wren replied. The watchers were not judging humanity's strength. They were judging its direction. Coalition species began adding their own transmissions, hesitant at first, then braver. They followed the human example. Stories replaced threats. Cooperation replaced desperation. For the first time in galactic history, dozens of species spoke with one voice, not unified by law or empire, but by shared existence. And the watchers listened. A single system at the edge of the erased region reappeared. Not rebuilt. Restored. As if it had never been touched. Gasps echoed across command centers. They gave it back, someone said. Wren closed his eyes for a brief moment. That was the answer. The watchers were not destroyers by nature. They were caretakers of balance, intervening only when civilizations proved incapable of restraint. The Empire had failed that test long ago. Humanity had passed, not by dominating the galaxy, but by refusing to let fear define it. The distortion field withdrew slowly, respectfully. Space returned to normal. Time stabilized. The watchers did not announce their decision. They didn't need to. The erasures stopped. The galaxy survived. In the weeks that followed, the universe felt different. Not safer, but wiser. Humanity did not claim leadership. Others offered it anyway. Humans declined power, but accepted responsibility. They helped rebuild shattered systems. Shared technology without ownership. Taught others how to prepare, how to remember, how to adapt. Not how to rule. Admiral Wren retired quietly. No monuments were built. No statues raised. History would remember him, but humanity would remember the lesson. Strength was not volume. Victory was not destruction. Survival was not luck. It was preparation, empathy, and the courage to face the unknown without losing oneself. Far beyond known space, the watchers continued to observe. But now, they observed with interest. With curiosity. With approval. Because when the universe finally asked whether life was worth preserving, it was humanity that answered. Not with force, but with proof. And for the first time in countless ages, the universe chose not to end the story. It chose to let it continue.